Right then, it's on for a feature now. Welcome to the Drive Time Show. I have on the show now, we have from the AIA, Rick Green. Welcome to the show, my friend. And first up, we are talking about the state of the UK roads and potholes. And I wanted to ask you, potholes, what causes them? And are they one of them things which just don't go away? You get rid of one pothole and another one kind of materialises.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Danny. And what causes potholes initially is if you get a blemish of any description in a road, eventually over a period of time, it will fill with water. And then when it gets cold and the water freezes, the ice expands, and eventually it just gets bigger and bigger. It's a freeze-thaw thing is the engineering behind it. But the answer is yes, you can. We could rid ourselves of potholes completely, but it costs money. And at the moment, what's happening is we're spending increasingly more money just going out and fixing the existing potholes and tidying them up. And we have to do that because they pose a danger to you can damage your car. And poor old cyclists, it's even potentially much worse for them. They can injure themselves. But I think what we're advocating and calling for is a properly planned maintenance of the roads, whereby we actually resurface the roads. And then that'll last you 20 odd years. And the potholes could be gone for good. But at the moment, the local authorities just don't have sufficient funding to do that.
Right, and we've got some stats here. Potholes filled every 19 seconds. That seems a lot. 15% increase in budgets, but no significant improvements. And a couple of my listeners have remarked, what do they pay their road tax for? And would like to know where their money's been spent.
Yeah. Well, one at a time, you're right. One every 19 seconds across the country. If you do the maths, it's actually 1.7 million potholes that we've filled last year, which is a huge waste of money, because actually you could do away with potholes altogether. In terms of why, where the money goes when people pay their road tax, etc., it goes to the Treasury. And it's also vehicle excise duty as well that comes from petrol and diesel, etc. And then they allocate funds to the various different government departments. And of course, the Department for Transport is competing with, all the other departments for funding, which it then in turn can pass on or not, as the case may be, to local authorities. So, the money's going to the Treasury, and then how much of it is actually going back into the road is a matter of some debate.
Is clearly marking the potholes rather than fencing them off a more affordable approach?
Well, they only mark them so the guys who come out to fix them know the extent of what it is they want to fix. I mean, if they fence them off, that would cause congestion and so on, particularly on busier roads. So, I mean, neither of them are actually satisfactory. What they should do is resurface the whole road, and then it'd be good to go for 20 odd years, and we wouldn't have people having to fix potholes in the first place.
Okay, and £15 million is the total cost of dealing with compensation claims, which is equivalent to just over £73 for each mile of the local road network.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge amount of money, isn't it? And that, if you think about it, is completely wasted money, because what happens though is somebody has had an incident or an accident, they've either damaged the car or they've damaged themselves, and then they spend a lot of time and effort trying to pursue that with the local authorities. The local authorities defend it because, because they do. But that £15 million that's spent in compensation, I'm sure the people that receive that money would rather not have to do it in the first place and not have the inconvenience.
Sure.
So that is a huge waste of money.
Yeah, and I know there's a rigmarole of kind of having to go through the process of claiming the compensation and reporting potholes. What advice would you give to people who are out and about and they want to take pictures of potholes just for kind of proof, bearing in mind people's safety?
Most of the local roads, and that's 97% of every road you'll ever see out there. There's only 3% that's run by the DFT. So 97% of roads, most local authorities have got a website, and most welcome members of the public, letting them know. Some of them are quite sophisticated, where you can actually put a dot on a map where the pothole is, take a photograph. I think a lot of them are capable of uploading the photograph, but let your local council know where the potholes are. And then, they have a statutory obligation providing they're sufficiently deep. Some potholes aren't deep enough to, they're not necessarily posing a danger to the travelling public, but certainly if they're deep potholes, they should let the local authorities know.
Great stuff. And can you just tell my listener briefly about your role in the AIA, the Asphalt Industry Alliance?
Yeah, I'm the chairman for my sins. The AIA is a trade organisation that basically promotes asphalt, the better use to specifiers and to people who design roads. And I suppose, act as a voice for the state of the road in this country. Because, we all need a better integrated transport network. I mean, the government are talking about resetting the economy following the pandemic. It's just so fundamental that we have good local roads. And think of all the delivery drivers that you see these days with people ordering at home, and think of ambulances going into hospitals with patients. It's just so important that we can give a voice to the public for the state of the road in the country at the moment.
Well, thank you very much, Rick Green, from the chairman of the AIA, which is the Asphalt Industry Alliance. We could talk I suppose we could talk for hours on this subject, but in brief there, thank you so much for filling us in on the state of the UK roads at the moment on the Danny Sun Drive Time.
Thank you very much for having me, Danny. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Cheers.